The vet's hand stopped dead against the dog's swollen belly, his breath catching like a snare in his throat. "Oh my God," he whispered, eyes locked on nothing and everything at once. Just minutes before, the German Shepherd had been rushed into the clinic, hours past her due date, trembling in pain yet refusing to push. Her heartbeat raced like a trapped bird, but it was her eyes that chilled everyone in the room. Wide, haunted, as if she were guarding a truth too heavy to speak. The staff gathered in silence as the ultrasound probe glided over her fur. The screen flickered to life and Dr. Bennett went pale. This shouldn't be possible," he murmured, voice cracking. Lena, standing just behind him, felt her knees weaken. "What's wrong?" she asked, barely audible. He turned to her, face ashen. "She's not just carrying puppies," he said slowly. "There's something inside her, something no one's ever documented." What he saw would leave the entire clinic speechless. If this story moves you, hit like and subscribe, because miracles like this deserve to be seen. And hey, drop your country name in the comments. I read every single one. Rain lashed the countryside that night like the sky itself was grieving. Lena pulled her coat tighter as she trudged down the gravel road, flashlight beam slicing through sheets of water. She wasn't even looking for trouble, just checking on a collapsed fence near the old Miller farm, when she saw it. A dark shape curled against the base of a splintered post. As she drew closer, her breath hitched. It was a German Shepherd, soaked to the bone, ribs visible beneath matted fur, belly taut with life. But instead of snarling or fleeing, the dog lifted her head with a quiet dignity that broke Lena's heart. Her eyes weren't wild. They were weary, as if she'd given up on kindness long ago. "Hey, sweetheart," Lena whispered, kneeling in the mud. "It's okay. I've got you." The dog let out a soft whine and pressed her paw into Lena's palm, a gesture so human it brought tears to her eyes. Without hesitation, Lena wrapped her in a dry blanket and carried her to the truck, murmuring reassurances all the way to Maple Creek Animal Hospital. At the clinic, Dr. Bennett confirmed the obvious. Nala, Lena had named her on the drive, was in active labor. Yet as the hours bled into dawn, nothing happened. Nala lay perfectly still on the stainless steel table, breathing hard, eyes fixed on the clinic door like she expected danger to walk through it at any second. Every time a nurse approached, she let out a low warning growl, not aggressive but desperate. Lena stayed by her side all night, stroking her ears, whispering promises of safety. By morning, Nala hadn't eaten, hadn't drunk, hadn't shifted an inch. Her temperature dipped dangerously low. "Her body's shutting down," Dr. Bennett said, frowning at the monitor. "She should have delivered by now." He placed his hand gently on her abdomen and froze. The movements beneath his palm were too numerous, too chaotic. "I need to run an ultrasound," he said urgently. Nala let out a shuddering sigh as if she'd been waiting for someone to finally understand. The screen lit up with a storm of motion. Tiny limbs, fluttering hearts, shadows shifting like secrets unraveling. Dr. Bennett leaned closer, adjusting the probe with trembling fingers. His brow furrowed, then lifted in stunned disbelief. "That's impossible," he breathed. Lena's stomach dropped. "Are the puppies okay?" she asked, voice thin with fear. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he counted under his breath 8, 9, 10, his eyes widening with each number. "There are too many heartbeats," he finally said, turning to her, pale. "Far more than any litter I've ever seen." Nala whimpered softly, her gaze locking with Lena's as if to say, "Now you see why I waited." The room felt charged, like the air before lightning strikes. Something ancient and sacred was about to unfold, and they were the only witnesses. Midnight came cloaked in silence, broken only by the hum of machines and Nala's ragged breaths. Then, a contraction so deep it seemed to come from the earth itself. She cried out, a sound both primal and heartbreaking, and the first puppy slid into the world, slick and gasping. Lena caught it instinctively, tears streaming down her face. "She did it," she whispered. But Dr. Bennett didn't relax. His eyes stayed glued to the ultrasound screen, where shadows still danced. Another pup arrived, then another, and another. The table filled with tiny, squirming lives, their whimpers weaving into a fragile symphony. 12, 13, 14. "Oh my God," Dr. Bennett muttered, hands shaking as he cleaned the 15th. Lena gasped. "How many are there?" He looked at her, stunned beyond words. "I'm still counting." When the 16th puppy took its first breath, the room fell utterly still. 16 perfect living souls, each one a defiance of odds, each one a testament to a mother's will. Dr. Bennett stood frozen, tears glistening in his eyes. 22 years in this field, he whispered, and I've never seen anything like this. In the quiet aftermath, as Nala lay surrounded by her sleeping litter, Dr. Bennett ran blood work. The results told a story her eyes had already revealed. Her stress hormones were off the charts, he said gently, sitting beside Lena. Her body was in survival mode, shutting down vital functions to conserve energy. Lena's voice trembled. Why wouldn't she just give birth? He sighed. Because she'd been through this before, repeatedly. The scarring, the malnutrition. She was part of an illegal breeding operation. Her body remembered the pain, the loss, the cages. When you found her, she wasn't being stubborn, she was terrified. Lena looked down at Nala, who lifted her head weakly and rested it in her lap. For the first time, her eyes held no fear, only trust. You weren't scared to deliver, Lena whispered, stroking her head. You were waiting for someone to love you enough to keep them safe. Within hours of Lena posting a short clip of Nala curled around her 16 pups, the internet erupted. Millions watched. Millions cried. Headlines called her the miracle mother. Donations poured in, enough to cover all medical costs and fund a sanctuary for rescued breeding dogs. Families from Canada to New Zealand wrote letters begging to adopt one of the puppies. Local news crews arrived, cameras rolling as Dr. Bennett explained. She didn't just give birth, she chose to believe the world could be kind again. Lena kept the smallest pup, the one who'd nestled closest to Nala's heart from day one. She named him Soul, because after so much darkness, he was her sunrise. And every morning, as the siblings tumbled through the yard like a storm of fur and joy, Nala watched from the porch, her body healed, her spirit finally at peace. Now, months later, the golden light of evening spills across Lena's farmhouse. Soul chases butterflies while his brothers and sisters wrestle in the tall grass. Nala lies in the sun, eyes half closed, tail thumping softly against the wood. Dr. Bennett visits often, still shaking his head in wonder. 16 lives, he says, smiling. All because one woman stopped in the rain. Lena sits beside Nala, running her fingers through the thick fur that once hid so many scars. She thinks about the night she found her, broken, silent, waiting. And she whispers what she's known all along. Sometimes the bravest thing a soul can do is wait for kindness before bringing light into the world. And sometimes all it takes is one person saying, I've got you. In that quiet moment, with 16 hearts beating in the distance and one mother finally safe, the truth echoes louder than any storm. Love doesn't just heal, it rewrites destiny.